In this video, I'm going to show how to make pine cones the way that I do them with chocolate and with modeling clay. And it's a different way to do it than to make a cone and stick almonds in it. I've seen people do like a cone of almond paste, then you stick the almonds in it. But it doesn't give you a really realistic pine cone. This is an actual pine cone that I got, and I was looking at it and realized that the inside is actually just a stick. It's like a stem, and then on the outside of it are the little cone pieces that come out, and as it opens up, it starts as a cone shape, but then it opens up like a flower. So these, I don't remember the name. I was going to look it up, but they're like the petals that open up on the flower. So when you're done, you have a stem and then the little things that come out, and it's not an actual cone shape. So to do it with the chocolate is very simple. It's a multiple step process, but it's not difficult and it doesn't take that long. It's just you have to give yourself time to do it over a few steps. So I'm going to do it and show you and hope that you can make some nice realistic pine cones for your cakes. To start the process of doing these, you need to get some chocolate chips, and it doesn't matter what kind they are. The cheaper the better usually, because you want the ones that have already bloomed. And when the chocolate blooms, it gets that white dust kind of look on it. And to get it back into temper where it will be nice and shiny, you would have to heat it and cool it and do all kinds of things to it to be careful with it. But when you heat chocolate too much, it will bloom, the fats will come to the surface, and it gives you that kind of dusty look. And that's what you actually want for the pine cones. So get some chocolate chips that have already bloomed. Just, you can see them in the package. Cheaper the better. And fill up a bag, disposable heavy bag about this full. And you're going to need a lot of the little pine cone petal things to actually make the pine cones. So go ahead and heat this in the microwave until it melts, and then you're going to cut the tip off. And I'll show you the next step after I heat it up. All right, to melt the chocolate, put it in the bag like I said. You put it in for about a minute in the microwave, and then just squeeze it and put it back in. I put this in for a minute, then for 45 seconds, and it melted. There's still a couple chunks in there, but you just kind of squeeze it until you can't feel any chunks. And you want to be very careful because this can get very, very hot. And I've burned myself before with it. And this morning I did it, and I actually melted the bag because that's just how hot it gets. So you have to just watch out and make sure that you're not getting it too hot. Then you just want to cut off the tip, and it does not have to be precise or any specific shape. And then you're going to go and squeeze out. This is a piece of parchment, and I usually put this on a cookie sheet to do this. But you just want to squeeze out kind of pine cone shape, leave things like that, and you can change the size of them. You want a variety of sizes, some bigger, some smaller. And you're going to probably, for a decent sized pine cone, you're going to use about 100 of these. So you want to just make as many as you can, all different shapes. For the larger parts that are at the bottom of the pine cone, you need larger ones. And for the smaller ones at the top, obviously just make them a little bit shorter. And you can make them as wide as you want. There's nothing precise about it. And there's no pattern to follow. So just do it however you want to. Then you want to just let these sit and cool off. You can put them in the refrigerator, in the freezer, and when you're done, you will have a lovely selection like this. Okay, then the next step is to take just a little piece of modeling chocolate, and let's see, I'm going to put this over here, and I'm going to use this piece of parchment. Just put it on a little piece of parchment, and you're going to take some of your larger ones that you made earlier. Now at this point, these do not look like they've bloomed, and that's okay, because the longer that they sit and the harder that they get, the more white they'll look, and that's okay. So all you have to do is just cover a little bit of the chocolate on there and start sticking these in. And you can either insert them or just kind of stick them into the chocolate. And you're only doing one side at a time. So just take your time. If they start falling over like that, it's okay. The pine cone on the bottom kind of tilts down, like these kind of tilt down a little bit. So if they do that, that's fine. That kind of supports the other ones. And you want to just keep layering them, and you kind of alternate them so that they're not right on top of each other. You can kind of stick them into the modeling chocolate here, and you're just going to work your way up the pine cone. So just keep covering it with chocolate a little bit at a time. Work your way up. And I know this is super interesting to watch. Some of these cake decorating videos just put me to sleep. And as you're making one, you can see why. It's just time consuming. There's really just nothing scientific about this. It's just, depends. If you have a pine cone to look at, that's better because then you can kind of see what they look like in real life. See, this is pretty fast. It doesn't take that long to do this. Right now I'm getting up to the top, so I'm going to start using some smaller ones. And when you get up to the top, they start to open up. Oh, and when I'm putting these on, I'm putting the flat that was against the parchment on the bottom and the curved part up on the top. Should have mentioned that before. But like I said, as you get up to the top, they start to open up a little bit and kind of tilt them up. Because as the pine cone opens up, it starts like a cone, like I said, and it kind of opens like that. So the bottom ones are going to be more open and the top ones are going to be more closed, just kind of like a rose the way it opens up. So you get all the way up to the top. Use some smaller ones here. I hope I'm not blocking this with my big head. I can't tell what's in the camera and what isn't. Alright. And you can kind of leave the top open for now. You don't have to put something up here, because as you turn it over, it's going to look different. And I kind of use a lot of chocolate. You don't have to use that much, but it helps if you're not sure how it's going to look. You can always go back and stick an extra thing in there. Put an extra one on the bottom. Alright, so that's the first half, and then you have to let that set up, and then we're going to flip it over and do the other side in just a little bit. And usually when you work with chocolate, you need to be really careful not to do the extreme temperature swings because it will make it bloom, but since you want it to bloom, it's okay. So I took this out. Now this little piece is broken off, that's fine. Any kind of excess pieces that are sticking out, if you want to break them off, that's fine. I don't know. That one's kind of thick, so. Alright, but basically what you're going to do is just start on this side and do the exact same thing that you did before. You're just going to get some here and start layering this. And if you want to take another piece of the modeling clay and put it there to give you another round piece, that's fine. But you don't want it to get too thick in the middle. And the way that this is built up, it's kind of thick already, so I don't want to put extra on there. So you're just going to go all the way through. Again, I apologize for how tremendously interesting this is to watch. But, as I said, it's not difficult, it's just a little time consuming. And you're just going to build it all the way up. I'll just do that to make it quick. And since you've got a good firm base on the bottom, you don't have to be as gentle with it as you did with the first one. When you do the other side, you have to be careful not to lift it up too much, or at all, because the little pieces will fall off. Put a little bit more on there. And what you want to do is finish this, and then just leave it alone. And you can stick it back in the freezer if you want to solidify it, or you can just leave it out at room temperature. And what will happen is over time, it will start to get dusty looking like the chocolate in the bag was. And it will start to bloom. And that's exactly what you want it to do. Now see how these are kind of even? You want to try to overlap those a little bit. You can kind of manipulate them so that they're not quite even looking. Because the more uneven they are, the more natural it's going to look when you're done. Alright, now when you get up to the top, on the other side you just stopped. And up at the top there's usually a couple that kind of stick up. So you can kind of put them up like that. Just get a couple, kind of stick it in there. Make one go in the other direction. Make a little more chocolate in there. Alright. Now I don't like this, but I think I put a little bit too much right there. So what I could do is try to stick another one in there. And if I don't like the way that that looks when it's completely done, that can be the side that's against the cake. Because every cake has a back side. Every cake has a front and every cake has a back. Right now, see, this is starting to melt in my hand, so you don't want to be too hot-handed with it. Don't touch it too much. But when you're done, and see how this is the seam there? You do want to kind of try to fill that in. Maybe put 1 or 2 more in there just to make it a little more uneven so that it doesn't look too regular. All right, so let that dry. You're just going to leave it. You can either, like I said, put it into the freezer again or let it set up at room temperature. And if you go away and just let these set up for a day or two, you know, just do these ahead of time, let them set up, and eventually they'll bloom and they'll look really realistic, and you can use them on your cakes. And that's about it.